College campuses are buzzing with activity as students return after summer break, but change is also in the air. At more than 400 colleges and universities, programs and centers that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion have been eliminated or rebranded. DEI programs have been under a microscope since state laws and President Trump's executive orders labeled them as discriminatory. So what's the future of DEI in higher education? Paulette Granberry Russell, President and CEO of the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education, is here to tell us more. It's part of our Rethinking College series. Paulette, thank you so much for joining us. Your organization is more than 20 years old, which seems to underscore the fact that these efforts to promote diversity on college campuses is not new. But do you think that history is reflected in the current national conversation we're having about DEI?
As you referenced, the organization that I helped to lead has been around for 20 years, but that is not representative of the efforts within our colleges and universities to become a more welcoming, supportive environment for students based on diverse backgrounds, identities, lived experiences. So we've had quite a bit of work over I'd say, the last 60 plus years to create a more supportive environment for all of our students.
And some of them have told us about the ways in which these types of programs help them get access to specific scholarships, programs, centers designed to encourage diversity. We spoke to one student at the University of Texas, Dallas, to find out what these programs on his campus meant to him.
When I did have access to DEI programs, they helped me a lot in being able to find a community where there was none. It's very easy as a Latino to feel very lost, especially if you're coming from a low income background like me. That helped me find a lot of common community with people who genuinely cared about what was going on around them, and also helped me find access to conferences and programs that I wouldn't have known otherwise.
So what are some of those real world changes that you're seeing now or anticipate happening in the future now that some of these programs are going away?
I think across the country, we've seen efforts both at the state level and certainly more recently with the executive orders to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. We are seeing women's centers. We're seeing centers for members of the LGBTQ community, other cultural spaces that are being closed or defunded. And it's clear, I think, as represented by the student, that these spaces were built over decades as a direct response to student needs, and their disappearance is deeply troubling.
And those disappearances, do you anticipate that those are going to lead, or perhaps they already have, to demographic shifts as incoming students consider where they want to apply?
Well, it could. And if those individuals do not feel that that campus is either respectful or supportive of their needs, then it is possible that they will seek support in other colleges and universities across the country. But what should be noted is that these centers are not extras to campus life. They act as vital resources that ensure that all students, not just some students, are supported in their education.
The Trump administration this week announced a $500 million increase in funding to historically Black colleges and universities, while at the same time cutting funding for colleges that mainly serve Hispanic students. How does that change fit into this administration's agenda when it comes to promoting diversity on college campuses?
At its core, our perspective is that this is not a win for students. It is a zero-sum approach. Funding resources are already scarce and potentially results in these institutions being pitted against each other. And all of these institutions, whether they are HBCUs, tribal colleges, Hispanic-serving, minority-serving institutions, they play a vital role in expanding access and opportunity for all students.
The Trump administration has also said that getting rid of some of these initiatives will lead to a society of, quote, colorblind and competence-based workplaces. How do you think about that vision as articulated there, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I think a colorblind employment environment, while a noble goal, that is not the reality of individuals' lived experiences or their sense of community. Our communities are diverse. People are not necessarily uncomfortable extending themselves across communities, but there are times when, in fact, we do not anticipate, nor should we expect, that every community is going to be welcoming and supportive. That is not the country that we live in currently. We have a long ways to go. And I think to achieve a colorblind society or country, while noble, I don't think that's the reality, nor do I think somehow diminishing culture and experiences is truly what is valued about this democracy.
Paulette Granberry Russell with the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education, thank you so much.
And thank you, Allie, for this opportunity.